Welcome people from C12 Logistics, C12 Logistics. It's a pleasure for me to introduce you one of the most important global personalities in the supply chain, Muddassir Ahmed, founder of SCMW. Welcome, Muddassir.
Hi Carla, thank you for having me. Right.
Thank you.
Great weather, great place, and great you. I think I'm super happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for your presence. It's a privilege to have you in this very important event in the Riviera Maya, and
Yes.
welcome to
And I've
Mexico.
seen this whole organization by the C12. You know, so many vendors, so many executives. I've seen the stage is brilliant, right? I think one of the best conferences I've actually attended. So well done to the C12 team for making this event happen, and then especially it's very diversified. I came from Dubai, Benjamin came from Germany, so it's excellent event.
Muddassir, you are an expert that always search to be in contact with the industry of the different countries that you have given conference.
So
And that you are always keeping in touch with these executives. In relation of this, what you consider are the most important changes that the companies have had in the supply chain, and what do you think they're focusing?
yeah, I think the biggest challenge right now since COVID has happened for executive is the changes in supply chain in general, right? So for example, you know, when the COVID has happened, the demand suddenly goes down, and then people have to stop, they have to work from home, they have to make process changes, system changes, customer behavior changes, right? But again, the issue has not been resolved. So if you see, there's a big issue globally on chip shortages, which is stopping all the electronic production. Furthermore, there's an issue with there's lack of shipping containers, right? Again, the people behavior has changes. You know, once people want working from home, some of them want to continue to work from home. So the demand is not stable at the same time. So executives right now facing a lot of challenges. But those challenges also bring in some opportunities. It's almost like a reset button, right? As the famous saying goes, don't miss the opportunity bring by the crisis, right? So we have a crisis right now, and it has brought in the opportunity for executives to almost reset their supply chain, look into how they can improve it. So for example, they are now looking into how to make the supply chain more agile, response to the customer changes. Most importantly, what COVID has done, they have basically forced businesses to become more digitalized, right? Both their processes and how they manage people and how they serve customer. So the digitalization of supply chain for me is being accelerated 5 years more than it should have been without COVID, right? So it has brought in a lot of good challenges, right, for the supply chain, which I think is a great opportunity. Therefore, if you see after COVID and this whole toilet paper issue, the most buzzword is actually supply chain issue, right? So it has bring in supply chain to a common people, like my people on the road never used to know supply chain, but now they know that supply chain is a function, right? Like sales or marketing. So it has really brought in the awareness to the common people, and for that I think.
Okay, well, talking about that, how are these companies redesigning their supply chain to face this new post-pandemic age that you already
You're
told
talking
us?
about? I think the traditional supply chain structure, which is you have a first tier, second tier supplier, then you manufacture, then you sell to a distributor, then you sell it to a dealer, then you sell it to whoever, has been changed. Let me give you a small example to prove the point. So in let's go in Morocco, right? For example, Bosch used to sell through distributors, right? And I used to work for a tire industry, we used to sell through distributors as well. But now the challenge here is that because you cannot deliver, to the customer, then they said, okay, what we do, we don't have, then I think Bosch went to Amazon, right? And Amazon said, can you sell with us? So now the marketplaces like Amazon, right, are now becoming more B2B marketplaces, not just B2C customer, for example, right? And therefore, there has been $87 billion have been invested in supply chain right now to focus on startups. And there's some very recent, very interesting startups are coming in, like Project 44, for example, O9, Ragrello, who's actually improving the whole visibility problem right now. So if you think about as a supply chain people, we want to do three things. We want to reduce variation, we want to improve visibility, and we want to improve velocity. The better we are in increasing the velocity of supply chain, the better we are in serving our customer, reducing inventory, improving customer service, right? And that is what COVID has, let's call it, brought the change in to forces executives or the supply chains to become more agile, better visible to their customers.
Perfect. Well, and How do you see Mexico in this sense?
I think Mexico is a great opportunity. I think when I look into Central America, these two countries definitely pops out very drastically. One is Chile and one is Mexico, right? Chile because they are focusing on startups and there's a lot of government support and they are rich country as well. In Mexico, you are 120 million people. Manufacturing is the core hub here. So when I was actually working for Eaton, we had a facility in Reynosa. I went there, and you are really serving the America market, Canada, right? And you are close to all those big countries. So as a manufacturing hub, we're looking for best cost, right? So Mexico serves in the right place. You have a lot of people, a lot of good manufacturing locations. You got engineers here, you got good infrastructure. So I think Mexico is very well positioned to become a manufacturing hub. So if I say manufacturing hub, that means supply chain becomes an integral part of this, right? So supply chain needs to be stronger and better in Mexico to serve and grow the market.
Okay, perfect. Muddassir, what do you think, or which are the key points to build an excellent supply chain strategy?
Okay, and that's almost the talk I have in a few hours, right? So when we talk about supply chain strategy, I always try to think on the 4 pillars, which is people, process, systems, and execution, right? What does that mean? You have to have the right people. You have to have the right people, and then you have to develop your people to deliver your strategy. That means you have to train them. You have to provide them the right tools. You have to define them the right roles and responsibilities. Do the self-assessment, and this is what we do at SCM Dojo. That's my company. We are here to build, supply chain people, provide them the right tools, right knowledge content. So anybody who's watching, come and visit an SCM Dojo, and we will do that. Similarly, so the right people needs to follow the right processes, because supply chain is nothing but a standard workflow. There's an input, there's a process, there's an output, right? And people need, as long as they're following the standard processes, which is built around systems, they're going to have a very stable supply chain. That leads to my third point, systems. Every business needs to have a right system, ERP system, demand planning system, forecasting system, whatever system. So if you put this together, running a business with your right system around the standard processes, managed by the right people, and you tell them how to execute better, that means you can really develop your strategy. So before you start thinking on how to develop a strategy, okay, understand your business goals, business objective, understand what customer want, and then focus on people, process, system, and execution.
Okay, perfect. This is a very, very important question, Muddassir. What are the technologies that you think are necessary for the logistic strategy?
Cool. Before I answer this question, I want to go a step back. So right now, the supply chain knowledge is changing. So historically, when we talk about supply chain knowledge, people used to say materials management, procurement practices, logistics, demand planning, sourcing, all that sort of stuff. But to be good in supply chain as an individual, or to be good in supply chain as a team, you need 3 things, 3 pillars right now. So you need your, I would call it hygiene factor, like technical competencies, your materials management, your sourcing, blah, blah. But the thing is, you need to be very good in understanding technologies and the application of technologies. And the third pillar is the people part. That means, or I would call it human skills. That means you have to be a good leader, a good project manager, a good communicator like yourself, and so on and so forth. So when we come to technology, there is a lot of technology available. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, 3D printing, cloud computing, blockchain, so on and so forth. But each of these technological, technologies have a specific application in supply chain. So the dilemma for the most of the supply chain people is, they know supply chain, but they don't understand technology. So they use the buzzwords, but they don't know where to start. And therefore, I'm writing a book on supply chain digitalization. Actually, the purpose of this book is to exactly do that. Inform the supply chain people that, for example, if you talk about blockchain, right, which is ledger to ledger databases, it's better used in, for example, in the procurement function or contracts management, or for example, documentation. That means you can control the country of origin or the originality. So if you're talking about collaboration with your suppliers, your customer, blockchain means nothing. I mean, that means you need to have a right cloud-based solution to have a better collaboration. So if you talk about visibility, which is a big problem, then Internet of Things comes into the play. That means if for example, Maersk have a container which you can track it live, right? Smart containers. So understand the technology and then understand the application on the part of supply. Right now, there's too much data, right? It's so much data in supply chain, but if you don't know how to manipulate the data or how to work with the data, you're not going to get benefit out of that. So for example, data management skills or data scientists are required in supply chain. You would have not said the same thing literally 10 years ago, right? So, and similarly, so those kind of, and if you know, for example, you wouldn't think a programmer would have a job in supply chain, but right now, if you're a Python programmer, supply chain is a great place for you to find a job, right? So the technology and supply chain are almost merging together, and that, I think that's the way to go.
Muddassir, it has been a real pleasure to have you here. Thank you for your participation
My pleasure.
in C12 Logistics or C12 Logistics. But before we end,
Yeah.
I want you to give us a message for the people that work in this industry.
Okay, my message is this. If you go to SCM Dojo blog homepage, there's a video I put in, and I call it 7 reasons why supply chain is a great career choice, right? So I'm going to just say the same thing. Supply chain right now is going through the same change as a fintech gone 20 years ago, or digital marketing. So if you think about digital marketing 15 years ago, what probably was not the skill you needed, but right now digital marketing is the thing, you know, social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all that. So supply chain right now is going through the same transformation. So if you are in the supply chain, there's plenty of jobs. We have a job section on SCM Dojo, you can find our jobs. So, and it's a growing job. And and one of the important beauty of supply chain as a career is you're almost like a midfielder in football, right? Mm-hmm. You can go up front, you can go back, right? So you work with your finance teams, marketing teams, sales teams, engineering. You work with all of them. And if you start with supply chain and you want to become a project manager, or you want to go into, I don't know, sales or operations, you can always move. So it gives you a lot of career choices as well. So message is, if you're watching this, supply chain is a great career choice. You're going to make a lot of money and you can enjoy a holiday in Mexico. Do that.
Well, thank you for everything, Muddassir. Thank you for being with us.
It's been a pleasure.
Here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all of you, C12 Logistics. 2020.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.
C12 Logistics, primer evento Smart de la comunidad logística en México.